If you're a leader in digital administration or regulated services, you know the feeling. It's that constant sense of chaos, right? It feels like every day brings more complexity, making real control feel like it's just slipping through your fingers. Well, this explainer is all about how we move from that chaos to a future of genuine sovereign control. So here's the crazy paradox we're all living through. We have more digital tools, more platforms, more AI, more subscriptions than ever before. But think about it. Does it actually feel like we have more control over our work, our data, and our outcomes? For a lot of us, I think the answer is a pretty firm no. Okay, so what's going on here? Why is this happening? Before we can find a solution, we've got to be really honest about why our current digitalization strategies are, well, falling short. Let's dig into the common pressures that I'm sure you'll recognize. I'm willing to bet this slide feels a little too familiar. First up, the tool chaos. It's just an endless sea of new platforms that ends up confusing people more than it helps. And that chaos leads directly to our next point, unclear roles. No one's quite sure who owns a task from beginning to end. Then you've got those promising pilot projects. They were great in a small group, but they never, ever seem to scale across the whole organization. And now, the really big one, the huge security risks from people using powerful cloud AI with your sensitive internal data. All of this is happening while, at the same time, the demands for compliance and transparency are just getting higher and higher. This quote, this really hits the nail on the head. The problem isn't that we need better software. The real bottleneck is organizational. It's a fundamental lack of clarity. Who exactly is responsible for delivering a specific service from start to finish? Until we can answer that question, no amount of new tech is going to fix the underlying issue. So how do we get that clarity? It actually requires a really important shift in how we look at things. We need to stop thinking in terms of those old, rigid org charts and start seeing our work in a new, much more dynamic way. On the left, you've got the old way, right? Syncing in departmental silos, all focused on who works where. On the right, that's the new way, syncing in service flows. The focus here is completely different. It's all about the value we're delivering. This shift takes us from a logic of production, a German term for just making stuff like in a factory, to Servuction, which is all about the co-creation and delivery of a service. And this is so important to understand. You see, producing a physical thing is totally different from delivering a service. You can build a car, put it in a warehouse, and sell it later. But a service, like processing a permit or giving a consultation, it's consumed the very moment it's delivered. You just can't manage a service-based organization the same way you manage a factory. The whole logic has to change. Now, once you adopt this service mindset, even the most complicated work can be broken down into this simple, clear three-step flow. You get an input, say a citizen's application. A defined process happens to it, and then an output is delivered, the approved application. This simple, repeatable logic makes work visible, traceable, and most importantly, manageable. And here's where the magic really happens. The moment you clearly define who the service provider is for each of these flows, the person or the team that's accountable for that entire journey, the chaos just starts to fade away. All of a sudden, digital work becomes controllable. Okay, so let's bring AI back into this. We keep hearing that AI is the answer to everything, but here's the thing. Just throwing an AI tool into a chaotic system, that just creates faster chaos. As the slide says, without a service architecture, without that structure, AI can't really do its job. It needs that structure to understand context and to actually be helpful. And that brings us to the missing piece of the puzzle. We need to start thinking about AI not as another app to throw on the pile, but as a foundational element that actually brings stability to our new service structure. To really get this, we're going to borrow a powerful idea from German engineering, the Fieldgerät, which basically means field device. Now, in a big, complex industrial system, a field device isn't the main engine. It's a small, precise part, like a sensor or a valve, that monitors, regulates, and ultimately makes the entire system stable and controllable. And here is the big idea. Private AI, running securely inside your own organization, acts as that stabilizing field device for all of your service operations. So what makes it a field device? Well, first off, it runs locally, which means you have total control over your data and can guarantee compliance. It's also independent of outside providers, so it's always on, even if the internet goes down. But here's the crucial part. It stabilizes your internal knowledge flows.
It doesn't try to replace the logic of your roles, it actually supports and clarifies it. And all of this is what makes the delivery of each service secure, transparent, and finally, controllable. Let's just pause on this for a second, because this is the key takeaway. Private AI isn't just another shiny new tool to add to the chaos. It's a structural, stabilizing piece of your operations. All right, let's put it all together. We're combining two really powerful ideas here: the organizational clarity that comes from thinking in terms of service providers, and the technological stability of using AI as a field device. Is really a simple but incredibly powerful formula for building resilience. Your people, the service providers, create the organizational structure, and then private AI comes in to stabilize and reinforce that very structure. And look at the result. You get a truly resilient digital organization. You get clear accountability for every single service. Each service provider gets their own secure AI assistant. This assistant can safely look through internal documents using a cool process called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG, to give accurate answers without ever leaking sensitive data to the cloud. You end up building these robust, minimal structures that actually work, even in a crisis. And you can create a smart hybrid AI model, using local AI for stability and control, and then using cloud AI strategically when you need massive scale. Now, this is a really important distinction to make. The goal here isn't to get rid of cloud AI entirely. Not at all. The goal is to build a sovereign foundation so that you are no longer completely dependent on it for everything. It's all about taking back control over your core operations. So, what does this all mean for the future of digital administration? Well, it points to a path forward that is not only incredibly powerful, but also, and this is the best part, actually achievable. At the end of the day, the journey toward a truly modern, resilient, and sovereign digital administration doesn't start with buying more software. It starts with a commitment to one thing: clarity. So here's the path forward, broken down into 3 clear actions. First, figure out and establish who your service providers are. Second, define their roles clearly and map out their service flows. And third, empower them by integrating a local AI as that stabilizing field device to support everything they do. It all comes down to this one simple, powerful idea. In an age where we feel so dependent on outside systems, maybe the most radical thing you can do is to regain control, build a stable foundation, and bring your AI home.